In this video, we're gonna be talking about the latest innovations in the NFT space, major updates by some of the best projects, as well as the new meta coming up for 2022. Now, the first project that we are going to be talking about is going to be Kaiju Kingz. I know you guys love Kaiju Kingz, so we're gonna dive into their new play-to-earn ecosystem. So like I've been saying before, we've seen it with CyberKongz doing their play and collect, and we're gonna see a lot of other NFTs kind of take inspiration from that and add this play-to-earn utility into their picture profile, because in 2022, it's not enough just to have a picture of a monkey or a dinosaur or something and sell it out. You actually have to build utility, and a lot of times these brands are going into gaming. And so the play-to-earn ecosystem, so you don't have to like read this long entire white paper. I kind of summarize it for you so you get the best insights and you kind of know what to do next moving forward. So first off, what's gonna happen is that there's gonna be a new token in this ecosystem, and I think it's gonna be their main token moving forward, and that is going to be scales. Now, Genesis, Kaijus can make scales, babies can make scales, and mutants can also make scales, but then, obviously the Genesis will make more than the babies, and then the babies will make more than the mutants, right? But everybody creates some kind of play to earn token from now on. So, things may change, but according to this article, Genesis is gonna make 15 a day, baby will make 5, mutants will make 2. And you might be asking, okay, well, what about our waste, right? The first initial token. And to get your Genesis to generate these scales, you have to lock up your Genesis, and it doesn't make any R waste anymore, and you have to convert it over to making scales. So it's kind of like a trade-off, and you have to understand which one will be more worth it to generate over time. So what are these scales going to be used for? Well, first of all, because Kaiju Kingz, they do have an alpha channel, they're also going to be creating these alpha passes, but they're read only, meaning you can take your scales, I think you take 300 of them, and then you turn it into an alpha pass, and you can use it, you can sell it, and so whoever has it can have access to the alpha, but they can only read and they cannot contribute. And this is really interesting because it creates a sink, or it creates a way to create value out of these scales so they're not worth nothing. And it also brings in new people into the ecosystem. So if you're like, oh, okay, I wanna check out Kaiju Kingz, but I don't wanna pay, 1 point whatever Ethereum for a baby. So how about I just buy this alpha pass and just see what it's about, right? I don't have to contribute, but I can read it, learn about it, what's going on. And then if I think it's worth it, then maybe I will buy a baby Kaiju or Genesis Kaiju when I have more money, right? And so the game, moving forward is what teams are actively trying to expand on their ecosystem and really just change the narrative of NFTs from being something that's niche to something more mainstream. The more mainstream a project can become and the more people they can attract who have no idea what NFTs are, the more successful they're going to be. That is the name of the game. Not only that, but in this gamification, play to earn, idle kind of system, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna have these scientists over here, and they're gonna have this functionality where they're able to steal scales, and long story short, there's some resources here that the Kaiju Kingz produce, and then these scientists can steal those resources. So it's very similar to Wolf Game, where this gambling mechanic of oh, you might win here, you might lose here, it depends on the probability, and what do you do to increase your probability of winning. So it's like this whole play to earn model. And I feel like, all these things are kind of building up for their real game that's hopefully coming out in 2022 and of Q4 or the beginning of 2023, and that's going to be Monster. So I suppose it's kind of a play off of the name Hunter x Hunter, right? The anime. That's probably my guess, but I don't know, speculation. But Monster is going to be some kind of play to earn mechanic game that's going to be using these scales, these DNA extractions that you create, these scientists that you also have. They're gonna put it all together in some kind of high quality game, hopefully. There's not much information about it, but it's just kind of on the roadmap. Overall, when I look at Kaiju Kingz as a project, what I appreciate, they're actually building in the space, they're hiring a lot of people. They may not be the most innovative when it comes to certain play to earn mechanic, maybe they're taking a lot of inspiration from others, and that's totally okay because that's how the game goes. But what they have shown in terms of execution, consistent development, not being too greedy when it comes to their mint prices, it seems like they're here for the long term, and so that would make me interested in following along with the journey. Next project we're gonna be talking about is going to be Clone X by Artifact Studios and Nike. Now, everybody knows what this project is. Floor right now is 11.25 ETH, and in my opinion, it's kind of underrated if you think about it, right? Because this is one of those projects that are building, and the rate of which they're building and how fast they're shipping things is crazy. It's so fast. We've seen them create VX models for the sandbox. We also seen them create these pods. We also seen them create Monolith Quest, which is they airdrop this thing to everybody. It's worth a few Ethereum, and then it's this whole puzzle and mystery thing where everyone's engaged in the community. So they're constantly delivering. They're constantly doing these airdrops that are worth thousands of dollars, and they're still building, right? In a way, they're over delivering. And a lot of people said that, when they came out, they did a Dutch auction, they were selling everything for 3 ETH. Everyone was like, oh my God, that's so greedy. But in reality, they airdropped more stuff for free than what it cost to mint when they first came out. And so by just looking at those numbers, it seems like they're building for the long term, right? And of course, they got acquired by Nike. And so, you know, there's a lot of resources behind this. Now, one thing that I found really interesting in a little update is that they have this creative challenge brief, right? So essentially they have these loot pods, and one of the areas they're expanding is kind of like architecture or like digital like interior design. So pretty much like if we're all like living in the metaverse, or like we have these characters and avatars and we spend a lot of time here, we might as well make our house or our apartment or pod like sick, right? And so what they're essentially doing is they are encouraging creators who maybe didn't have a career in 3D modeling and they want to like give it a shot or like find opportunity. They're inspiring these people to be like, hey guys, enter our contest, you know, show us your best stuff, and then we're gonna find a way to partner so that we can help sell your designs to our community. We've seen a lot of good designs coming out of this creativity, this community that's just been building and building and building. Like I said before, the name of the game is how do you expand the market? How do you reach out to people who weren't necessarily into NFTs and bring them into NFTs? And I think this is a really good way to get like creative people who, you know, are trying to make a living with their art into the world of NFTs by designing for these contests. And even if they don't win, only like, you know, 0.01% of the people who enter these things are gonna win, right? Because there can't be so many winners. They're gonna be exposed to this stuff. They're gonna be like, oh my God, you can make money from NFTs. And then even if they don't win the contest, they're still gonna do something in NFTs if they see the potential, and that's expanding the pie. And speaking of Artifact, as you know, they did a collaboration with Takashi Murakami. We've seen them with the Murakami drip. You know, they're doing physical events too. They're doing a museum, which Murakami does museums, you know, installations all over the world, and I've been to them as well. Takashi Murakami's coming out with his own NFT, which is the Murakami flowers, like we talked about before. There's a little roadmap visually for it. Doesn't really say too much over here, but yeah, you know, not only are they trying to dominate in the metaverse space, they're trying to dominate in the physical art space, and not only that, but they're also trying to dominate in music. So essentially, Suthought, I think he owns Death Row Records or very affiliated with them. I'm not exactly sure the ownership percentage of everything, but essentially Death Row Records, hip hop label, right? And they're bringing hip hop, and not just hip hop, probably like all types of music in the future, into the metaverse, right? And so Clone X is one of the first NFTs to sign to this record. It's not like this person is like an actual person. I think it's like the NFT represents the brand, and then from there, you know, different artists can create music under this brand. We also seen this with Bored Ape Yacht Club, where they had their band, I forgot what it was called, but they have a band of 4 people and they could replace a different artist, and then that's like a band that can go out and tour and stuff like that, right? And so I think this is gonna be the same thing, where we have, you know, these artists creating songs under this NFT, and the songs themselves are pretty cheap, 0.022 ETH on Polygon, so it's something that, you know, everybody can get into. You can buy this and just hold it and just see how it goes. I think music NFTs is gonna have a run sometime. I don't know exactly when, but it's inevitable that more and more artists get into the NFT space because it's such a good business model and a way to reward the diehard fans. And so I would expect, you know, whatever they do to be quite large, right? And if we kind of look at Snoop Dogg's track history when it comes to NFTs, there are a couple things. Like, first of all, Snoop Dogg, if you guys didn't know, is allegedly Cosmo the Medici. And so basically it's this personality on Twitter who's like a whale. He buys a lot of art and stuff like that. I think his portfolio, public portfolio, it's like over $10 million. Oh, my mistake, it's like $17 million, right? So he's been pretty involved in the NFT space, doing a lot of stuff, and he's a personality. And not only that, but like he also sold his own NFTs as well, raising I think tens of millions of dollars with this Snoop Dogg and the Sandbox Snoop Dogg avatars. Okay, so right now, I mean, they sold 10,000 units. The floor price is 0.349, which is not bad. You know, Snoop Dogg is pretty heavily invested in the metaverse, and I think he's going to bring a lot of mainstream attention into the metaverse. Not everyone will agree with the way he does things, but it's definitely getting a lot of eyeballs and people talking about it, especially on the news and things like that. And you know, Snoop Dogg is an icon at this point, right? So I mean, it's really good to see people pushing the industry forward in that way and giving more eyeballs into the space. Okay, so one quick project I want to talk about is Project Godjira. We covered them before, but they have this Genesis collection of 333, and then they're gonna do a Generation 2 of 3,333. And the interesting thing that, you know, people are talking about is that if you look on OpenSea, right, like there's basically 3,000 units, only 94 owners. Why do 94 people own 3,000 units, right? And the reason is because they're trying this experimental way of minting. So instead of having the, you know, whitelist mint first and like the public mint, they mint it themselves first, right, for free. And then they sell the NFTs that are already minted to other people to somehow make this more secure. And I guess that is kind of true, where if they mint it first, then nobody can like exploit their contract, which makes sense. The thing that's kind of weird for me is like, what is the mint price of the project, right? So essentially there is no mint price, and they're trying to gauge what the demand is, especially during, let's say, an NFT bear. So in some ways they're saying like, hey guys, we're doing this because we are trying to avoid a gas war, avoid our contract being exploited, traded, which is true to an extent, and then it's gonna be spread out over 4 to 5 days with 100 private sales, followed by Genesis claim, whitelist, Freeman, etc., right? But at the same time, when I look at it from the perspective of a buyer, I'm thinking, are they trying to just find the highest price possible to sell to the collector so that they just make as much money as possible up front? And that seems to be a case, right? It's the same with like a Dutch auction where you charge, let's say, 3 Ethereum for an NFT, and then over time it goes down depending on what people want to pay for it. A lot of people will make the claim that we're saving money on gas and things like that, but really they're just trying to figure out what is the maximum price they can charge based on the demand and supply that they have. So is this greedy? It's hard to say if it's greedy because it's like all the money supposedly will go into the community pool, which the founders and team don't really touch, and then that money just goes back into the community and all the holders. So if that's the case, then in the end, in the long run, do the holders benefit? Yeah, but then those are also promises, and promises don't always have to be kept. But at the same time, it does prevent flippers from buying into it and just like flipping it on to other people. I guess in the end, somebody's gonna make money, so it might as well be the project versus a random flipper who doesn't care about the project. You know, hard to say. You know, it is also new. It's hard to say like what's right, what's wrong, but it's definitely interesting. It's something I'm watching to see if this is actually successful, because, you know, as we look to drop our own NFT project, we wanna find the best thing for our collectors as well. In other news, Michael Jordan, right, the basketball player, is dropping NFT on their platform called Air on Solana. So Air is basically like a platform where people can buy and sell NFTs, and from my understanding, they're focusedly specific on athletes for now. Maybe in the future they'll expand. So as you can see here, you know, they have athletes coming soon. It's not announced yet, but it's gonna be in basketball. They're like professional players, high school players, so different levels. These are the different ways that you can support your favorite players by owning a piece of the NFT, and obviously as they excel in their careers, the value of their NFT is also gonna increase, very similar to like sports cards, for example, right? And so the first collection is going to be this thing called 6 Rings. It's on Solana. Personally, for me, I don't really buy NFTs on Solana, but hey, you know, things might change in the future if there's some good stuff on it. And basically it's like a picture of a bull, and it's the first collection on this platform. So I guess would that make it valuable? Maybe. So there's like a black one, red one, platinum one. So at the moment, you know, me looking at this website, there's really not that much utility to it besides like special access. And then like, what is that access? If they're not clearly communicating it on the website to me, then my opinion, there's not too much going on with this, but they raised like $10 million to make this platform something. So, you know, something to watch out for. They're still learning, I guess, and they're still trying to figure out what works the best. The thing I want to say is like, if Michael Jordan and like his team are trying to build a platform from this, NFTs are going to go mainstream. It's just when it's going to happen. Right now we're in a bear, so everyone's like, I don't know, and we don't want to buy anything. But yeah, you can see in the future, like everyone's going to be jumping on NFTs, from like athletes, musicians, artists, you know, the list goes on and on. But I'm pretty bullish on the space overall in the future, just because of all the big names coming into it. Now, another story I want to talk about is Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is, you know, one of the premier blue chip NFT projects right now. It's almost like a phenomenon of like how expensive each one is, right? So this interview with Nicole, the CEO of Yuga Labs, which is the company that creates Bored Ape Yacht Club, you know, some interesting insights here. And that is, number one, if you think about it in general, what they have done really well is bringing NFTs to the mainstream. Yes, everybody jokes like, oh, took a screenshot of your NFT, now it's mine, right? Whatever. But they did get a lot of eyeballs into the space, and they got a lot of people excited to join the space, and that just kind of increased the overall volume into NFTs, which also increased all the prices, right? And one of the things that they hinted at the end of this interview is that they're going to be dropping another set of NFTs that is going to be more accessible to the everyday person. So instead of spending like 20 racks minimum on, you know, a Bored Ape Kennel Club, whatever, it's gonna be something that's more affordable. And again, the name of the game is really what brands can attract new people who don't even know what NFTs are, and maybe they're buying their NFT for the first time. What are the brands that are gonna make it easy for them and make them feel comfortable entering into the ecosystem? Because in the ecosystem, people leave all the time, and if you don't bring in new people, well, all your people are gonna leave eventually, right? And then the value of your assets will decrease. A really good parallel to this is, you know, looking at Nintendo, for example, right? Like Nintendo had really big hits when it came to the Nintendo DS, the dual screen, and also the Nintendo Wii. And I'm actually reading a book on Nintendo right now, and one of the things that I'm learning is that the reason why they're successful as a company is because they're able to get the average person who's not into video games and, you know, change their perspective of what a video game is. Because before, video games is very niche, nerdy. It's like that, you know, nerd, overweight guy living with his mom, like playing Warcraft, right? Like that was the perception like a decade ago or 2 decades ago, right? And now it's like more mainstream, where girls are playing a lot of video games too. Adults like are playing video games, you know, older people are playing video games. It's kind of for everybody, right? But I think like if you kind of listen closely to what founders say and what their vision is, the ones that can really bring in the mainstream, those are the ones that are gonna survive. And another one besides Bored Ape that is, you know, going for that or swinging for that, doesn't mean they're gonna be successful, is Adam Bomb Squad. One of the tweets that I recently saw was, I'll go ahead and like this one right here. here. My job has become teaching Web3 NFTs to streetwear fashion people and teaching streetwear fashion people in Web3, because once the worlds converge, we'll be unstoppable. So, Bobby Hundreds, I do hold some Adam Bombs. If you should kind of look at the vision of what the founder is, and this is super important, not just the technical detail of how complicated things are, but like what they believe. These are the people that are expanding the pie. This guy, right, he has connections in streetwear and he's spent like decades in this space. He's getting all his friends and his community who don't really care about NFTs, but they care about collecting sweaters, vintage t-shirts, and like streetwear and like fashion, like all these kind of things. And he's moving those people into NFTs, which expands the pie. Overall, I would say the message here is that, we've seen Clone X expand by inviting more creators into the space. We've seen Kaiju Kingz expand by offering different mechanics to make their prices cheaper to get people into the alpha and then like trying to grow the community that way. We've seen Bobby Hundreds with Adam Bomb Squad expand by bringing in streetwear into NFTs. We've also seen Yuga Labs expand by trying to get into the mainstream and offering things that are cheaper for other people to get into. So as you think about what you want to invest in, what you want to buy into, especially if you're looking for blue chip projects, during this time when things are a little bit at a discount, those are the things that I'm personally looking for, right? Who can expand the pie, which is very important, and who's actually building for the long term. So if you don't want to be alone on this NFT journey, make sure to join my Discord, link is in the description, and also follow me on Twitter where I give you my best insights in real time. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.